It's time for the Cyber Executive Podcast, where we talk to top industry experts about risk, technology, and leadership. I am your host, Marc Ashworth, and today I have the pleasure of having James McQuiggan, who is a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4, with me here today. James, thank you so much for being my next guest on the latest episode of the Cyber Executive Podcast.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mark. I'm excited to be here, and the honor's all mine.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be talking with you today here because it's something a little bit different than what we've been doing. We're going to be talking about deep fakes and how to detect it and everything around there. We hear so much about it in the news and awareness training and everything. So I think it's a really cool, relevant topic as this becomes more and more a threat to our individuals as well as to the enterprises out there.
Very much so.
Yeah. So, how prevalent do you think deepfakes are right now? You hear a lot about them, but is it something that we're really seeing more of that we're really not realizing that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think you're hitting it on the head just right there. We're A lot of the deepfakes that are out there right now are the audio deepfakes. We've heard about some of the video deepfakes that occurred last February. We had the organization over in Hong Kong and the UK where you had it started off with a text message that eventually worked its way into a video call where the employee was talking with, or who he thought they were talking with regards to the CFO, CEO, members of the board, to get them to transfer X number of dollars so many times to another exterior organization, all at their request without going through the proper channels. We've seen it with audio deepfakes where employees, it starts off with a text message and then eventually goes into an audio deepfake phone call with that person, getting them to take an action that they may or may not otherwise do on a regular basis, or bypass certain checkpoints or gates for them. But basically audio is becoming more prevalent because we've also seen it on the personal level with individuals where cyber criminals or scammers, bad actors, whatever you want to call them, they are looking at a particular target and are able to get audio of a family member. All they really need is about 30 seconds. And essentially they generate a voice, call them up on the phone that it sounds just like them, to try to get them to send money, pretend they've been in a car accident, get them to send money, and so forth. So while we haven't, I'll look at the one from last February as kind of the Pearl Harbor of sorts, where it was $25 million transferred out over 9 different transactions. It's happening. We're seeing it. We're hearing about it. It's not big in the news right now, mainly because there's a lot of other stuff going on in the news. But from a technology standpoint, with the video capabilities, it's getting a lot easier, and the software that's out there is becoming a lot more readily available and free for anybody to be able to create their own deepfakes. So for me, it's prevalent because I'm been invited and I've been talking a lot about this, especially over the last year. And it is something that I think a lot of folks are kind of keeping an ear out, just kind of waiting to see. But at the same time, they're kind of going, okay, all right, well, it hasn't hit us yet, so we're not going to worry about it. So we're not going to worry about it at this time.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned a couple of different types around video and audio, but are those just recorded sessions, or how good is the, live, whether it's, a video or an audio, to be able to easily respond? And is that done via just a voiceover, or is that a text to audio? How's that being done?
So essentially what you've got is live capability to change your face through a webcam. So essentially you have a program running on your system leveraging a high-end video graphics card. So we're talking something with 24 gigabytes worth of NVRAM, network video RAM. Anyway, leveraging that, then you have RVC, real-time voice changing. And again, you need a sample of the person's voice, 30 seconds, a minute. You need video of that person, whether that's 1 to 2 minutes. and you're able, the more video you have, just like any other AI model, the more data you've got, the better of the model and of what you can create within that deepfake. And essentially timing it through something like a Zoom connection. There is software that's readily available that allows you to essentially snap right in, where you give it the target face that you want to use. And all it does is leverage an image, and then off it goes, and it's able to essentially face swap yours. So it's basically working on the face itself, where it's able to go through and then tie that in with the RVC, the real-time voice changer, where there is a bit of a delay, but it's like seconds. And even still, it's going to run through the software to go out through Zoom or the video platform. Now there is, and you had touched upon recorded. Early on, a lot of the ways that I was seeing with regards to some of the deep fakes was it was pre-recorded. You go into something like 11 Labs, or you go into something like Play HT, and there's a variety of other ones, but those are the common ones. And for little to no money, or even $20 a month, you just have to get somebody's audio, 30 seconds, 45, a minute, is kind of that baseline. Go in and create their voice. Now, here's the kicker. It does ask you that you are authorized and allowed to use their voice, but who else
Yeah.
reads the end user license agreement? So it's very easy to go in and create the software. I mean, you look back to the Biden robocall issue last February to the fine folks over in Rhode Island, to now where they're actually they're checking the audio, if it sounds like a celebrity or a politician or somebody of a, recognizable figure, they'll prevent you from doing it. But there are other third-party pieces of software, things you can get from the dark web to be able to create that. And so they were originally doing it with pre-records, and they'd have a whole different lineup of set statements. So then you would call up grandma or the dad or somebody, that, especially over a phone, and if they're not expecting the call and it's something that's distressing and causes a high level of emotion, causes them to panic, causes them to act urgently, that involves money or involves the well-being of a loved one, your brain goes into overdrive, and you're reacting to it very, very quickly without kind of taking that step back. It's kind of like the phishing emails, where you get that email and it talks about you're going to be arrested by the IRS. They're coming over to arrest you unless you pay right now the $5,000 that you've got to do, or $1,500. And people freak out and they go, oh my gosh, okay, and then they pay, which we all know that the IRS doesn't send over the police. And if they do, they don't tell you they're coming. They just kick in your door. So essentially, with the different types that we're seeing, some of them have been pre-recorded, but now we're getting to the point where you can start doing it in real time.
Wow. Yeah, definitely scary, as it continues, the technology is progressing for the good, right? But then the bad is able to take advantage of it and stuff.
Yeah.
So you touched on how deep fakes have been made, or can be made, and everything off of there, which, obviously by the time we're done with this podcast, we're going to be totally hosed, because there's going to be more than 30 seconds of time. Right. So,
I'll give you a quick tip.
Yeah.
On when it comes to your audio and your podcasts, underlay or underscore music.
Oh,
Just
okay.
subtly underneath there, because what happens is if someone does lift our audio off of this and there's music underlying it, it does help mess up. It could even be background noise. Like, let's say we're doing this chat or I'm in a, large auditorium, like at a conference, and there's people passing by. Those noises help distort the audio, and trying to be able to create its sample and be able to create the model. So if there's underlying music or sound effects, and it doesn't have to be blatant, it can be very subtle underneath the recording. That's one of the big ways that we're finding that, that can help prevent it. However, that can and has been circumvented already as well. So it's a huge game of cat and mouse. We think back to the 90s when, every day there was a new virus or Trojan horse or worm coming out, and everybody had to update their patterns on, their antivirus. Same thing here. Every time there's a new capability coming out, we're looking to find a way to stop it, and then they circumvent that, and then we work towards stopping that. So it's
Yeah.
the ever famous game of in cybersecurity of cat and mouse of what they do versus what we do, and they one up, and then we catch up, and yeah, it goes on and
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I know there's enough audio outside of my podcast out there and video of me that, yeah, they got me. So if they wanted, yeah.
Right there with you. I
So,
did a presentation a couple months ago, and it was my deepfake presentation. And somebody came
yeah.
up to me afterward. He had already recorded my audio. He already had it in a deepfake, and he played it for me.
Oh,
And I'm
man.
like, "Way to go! Good job! Kudos to you." So
Yeah, it shows you how quick it can be done, right? So it
very
doesn't
much
take
so.
long.
Yep.
So how can you detect deep fakes? So if you're, and we'll follow up with a little bit more detail, like around and interviews and that sort of stuff in a little bit. But just in general, is there any good software out there that does that, or what's some keys there?
So when we start looking at deepfakes or synthetic media, and we look at the different types where you've got text, you've got imagery, you've got audio, and you've got video. From the technology perspective, there is software and services out there for you to be able to detect generated text.
Mhm.
Why is that important? Well, if you've got any executives that are in the education space, they'll particularly like that because the side hustle for me is I'm also a professor at a private university here in Central Florida, teaching cyber threat intelligence over at Full Sail. So shameless plug for them. But one of the things that I do there is because teaching cyber threat intelligence, anyone will tell you that works in CTI, yeah, it's fun going down the rabbit hole and research and doing everything else. But the most important thing and the thing that you do more often than anything else is write reports. And so with my students, and I have them write a lot of reports in the class, I have them also run it through what a service called GPT-0 that analyzes what they've written to tell me if it's been written by AI or written by a human. And it's got its capabilities most likely through a GAN, a generative adversarial network, which is two AIs up against each other,
Mhm.
trying to fake each other one out. And so the GPT-0 originality, and there's another one that I use called Bypass GPT. All of them are really good at being able to let me know if it's written with generative AI.
Mhm.
With regards to images, I think we're able to see, we're getting more and more realistic with that, but there is software out there that is able to detect it. I haven't started using any of it yet. But from an audio and a video perspective, which are where the concerns are with a lot of folks, there is audio detectors that are out there that are doing a very good job in being able to let you know if it's AI or not. Resemble has got in their platform. 11 Labs has a way to be able to detect, but essentially they're trying to detect their own audio that they've generated. Either they're putting markers in it or something in the metadata. But Resemble I've used and it's been really good. And there's plenty of other software programs and services out there where you can upload the audio to determine. From a video perspective, there's still too many false positives. We're not able to do it in real time yet. The audio, I do believe, can be done in real time, but with video, we're not there yet. A lot of it has to get processed. It takes, now it's up to minutes and hours to determine, depending on how long the video clip is. But it's down from what was out, significant a number of hours in prior years. We're getting better each year as technology improves, as the software improves. We're getting better to be able to detect if a video is a deep fake or not. But I think what this comes down to is, okay, so we have the technology aspect, but we as the human are the ones that are being manipulated. And seeing as we're just like, any type of social engineering, phishing, whether it's voicemail phishing, uh, email phishing that's going on, we've got deepfakes that are being used again to socially engineer us to get us to take an action. And so we have to look to us as humans to sit there and go, okay, I'm looking at this video. How do I know, rather than go, is this fake or not? We kind of need to take the same approach as if we were doing, if it was an email. When we get an email, for me, I check and go, all right, am I expecting this email? An email is kind of like thinking about your own home. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
drawing various parallels here. At home, if your doorbell rings, do you go running to the door and open it up to see who it is? Or do you sit there and go, I'm not expecting Amazon today? Because Amazon has knocked on my door a couple of times and said, okay, hey, we're just checking to make sure you're live. You didn't get a package today. Um, Other times, if you're not expecting family, friends, you're not expecting somebody at that door and your doorbell rings or there's a knock at the door, do you go running to the door? Do you open up your video camera doorbell? Do you look out a side window? Because you don't know who's at the door. So you take a couple extra steps to verify, okay, do I really want to open the door? And if it's somebody standing there with a clipboard and a hard hat, looking for something, may or may not open that door. And so the same thing goes with email. If I'm not expecting an email, then I'm going to take an extra precaution to go, okay, who's this coming from? What are they asking me to do? And that is more of like a split-second reaction, not the multiple seconds that it's taken me to explain it.
Mhm.
And so with email and with videos, when we see videos, especially nowadays, with it's so easy to be able to generate the video, you look at the video and go, okay, what's the purpose of this? Is there, a reason that this could be a deep fake? Is there some emotion that it's supposed to make me feel? Is it, wanting me to take some sort of action? Several months ago or last summer, when we had the terrible fires over in California, there was an image that got spread around on social media of the Hollywood sign, the famous Hollywood sign that's up on the hill that was engulfed in flames. And it got shared around quite a bit because people were reacting. They were freaking out by, oh my gosh, this wonderful landmark that's in California, in
Mhm.
LA, burning because of these California files, making it more real for people rather than seeing somebody's home being burned, which is terrible. Don't get me wrong. But if it's not your home burning, there may be less empathy or less concern. But something as famous as the Hollywood sign. Now, the kicker was to that image, if you look at it, it had two D's on the end. The image that got generated hallucinated and gave you a second D. But a lot of people didn't see that and they just reacted to the image of what they were seeing. And so now you've got to get yourself to a point where, all right, you're looking at it. You've got to have a healthy level of skepticism, which is what I like to call, and essentially, okay, do I believe this? Is this real? Is there a reason for this? Is there some benefit because of this? Can I verify? Is there a way to go look to see, is the Hollywood sign on fire through a Google search or any other type of internet search? Going through, we want to trust things, but we also have to verify on top of it as well. So when we start having those deep fakes, the technology's there, but then also we as humans have to be able to take a step until that technology catches up and it starts doing everything in real time. And things like social media or websites can actually inform us that goes, hey, oh, this is a deep fake or this is synthetic media. Give some care on whether or not you believe this before reacting.
Mhm. Cool. So,
That was the short answer. Sorry.
so you kind of gave some different examples of how it's being used, but what are some of the risks associated with deepfakes? There's obviously there's phishing and those sort of things, and but what sort of real world risks that's associated with them?
So, right now, if we look back at the example that impacted this organization last February, where they lost $25 million. There's brand reputation. There's risk. It looks bad because they were able to deep fake the board of directors and have that kind of information. That's why shortly thereafter you had a lot of organizations just start pulling the images and the names of people that were on their board of directors because they didn't want to be subject to the same thing. So your risks if you are deepfaked, if you end up having to, someone convinces one of your employees to send out intellectual property or shut down a firewall or whatever, it's the same thing as if you're dealing with a breach in your organization or a ransomware attack. It's damage to brand, could be possible damage to your bottom line. Reputation becomes is brought to the front as well. So a lot of it is external risks. It could be if it gets out, what's that impact going to be with your organization? Um, and when we start looking at deep fakes within one of the things we've been seeing is from coming out of North Korea, we have a lot of people that are using fake identities, synthetic media, and synthetic identities, essentially,
Mm.
to get hired into organizations. And they get
Yeah, let's
hired into
not
the
talk too much about that because that's a follow up question I have there. So let's not get into the interview too much.
Okay. Okay. Um, all right, then we'll hold off on that then.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so your risks are external facing, as if it was a ransomware attack, as if it was a data breach. That those impacts that you have there are going to be the same ones if you end up falling for a deepfake.
yeah. And I've heard of ones where they're taking just a few clips from people's voicemails and then they're using that in a like a college type scam where they claim or kidnapping type scam
Right.
that's driving that. So that and they're using the child's voice or the
Mm-hmm.
parent's voice or whoever from that or spouse or whatever. So I know that
Yeah.
that's one that I've been
Social
hearing.
media is
Yeah,
huge. I mean, you go onto social media, and so many people have their profiles wide open, so you can go in
right.
and you just get 30 seconds of that person. And now there's actual other software where you could take them where they've recorded something already in a video. You could
Mhm.
take their voice and then basically change it so that you get them to say what you want them to say, and then bring that audio back into the deepfake platform. And what it does is it keeps their video, but it redoes their whole mouth movements, and
Mhm.
that's all it changes to match the words that you get them to say. So if you've got a 30-second clip of them from TikTok, and they're talking about, I'm just going to pick something, how much they love Disney and Star Wars and Marvel and all that,
Mhm.
and you get them to change it where they start spewing vitriol about Star Wars and Marvel fans and everything else, and then you may not be able to post to their profile, but you create a similar profile to them, similar hashtags, and it's them doing the opposite. You may start, they could start losing their followers, and which to them is money, because more views, more money. So it could be damaging to them as a content creator as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and you heard stories a few months ago where certain celebrities were being used to do endorsements, and they were basically taking
Yep.
those clips
Yep.
and doing that exact same thing. So
Yep.
it could be a reputational
Mm-hmm.
thing, especially from a celebrity type standpoint. So as
Yeah.
well.
Tom Hanks doing dental ones. You had Taylor Swift doing cookware.
Yeah,
Um, there was somebody else. There was a
yeah.
couple. Oh, who?
Endorsements of politicians and
Oh, yeah.
everything too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Very easy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started to hint on it before I jokingly stopped you there around the interviews and the different ways that North Koreans are being very much in the media. I think right now for that in various ways. But how a lot of people that this is the way that we do interviews now is over Zoom and Teams meetings. So how can you spot a deep fake in an interview?
So a lot of what for us now comes down to the questions we ask. There are ways in the video people talk about put your hand up in front of their face because of the way that it's trying to manipulate the face. It can mess it up. They've been able to fix that. There are other techniques where you get them to turn their head 90 degrees one way and then 90 degrees the other way, because usually the stitching on the face swap kind of drops off on the edges here and you can kind of see something.
Mm.
A colleague of mine who I had a conversation with last month, who works for ID.me, the company that handles all the identification verification for the government, he goes, yep, nope, they're even bypassing that. Some of them
Mm.
out there as well. So it's getting harder and harder to be able to authenticate somebody that's out there. So for us, one of the things that we're spotting the North Koreans through KnowBe4 comes down to your line of questioning. Now, we've talked about this publicly, so I'm not giving away any type of secrets.
Hmm.
And I'm sure they're already figuring out ways around it. But we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a candidate interviewing with us. Their resume said that they were basically born and raised in Dallas, Texas. And in the questioning, they were hitting it out of the park on all the technical questions, on everything that we needed. But when we started talking about the Dallas area, That's when problems arose, and there were usually pauses from when we asked the question to when we gave a response. So one of the questions dealt with, where's your favorite place to eat in Dallas? And the response came back as, their mom's. It's like, okay, all right, it's kind of weak, but so then the other question kind of came about as a comment on the fact that the Cowboys have had a rough couple of years, and how do you see they're going to improve over the next couple of years? And the response came back relating to cowboys that wrangle herds, cows, that kind of thing. So, because anybody that was born and raised in Dallas, even if they don't like football, they
Yeah.
know about the
You know who
Cowboys.
Cowboys are.
And
Yep.
so we find that if we ask questions relating to where they went to school, what was the best place to go for pizza, on campus? Asking questions about the school, where they've worked, their background checks end up passing because they've stolen identities, extremely sophisticated. The references work as well because it's probably similar people. So, they're getting all of that, but now it's getting to the human factor of it. That is where we're recognizing and seeing a lot of that missteps coming down to the type of questions. Be curious, as Ted Lasso always says, be curious, get curious about some of the questions and see, what you can find to whether it trips them up and also the delay from when we asked the question to when they gave us the response. No doubt they're probably clicking away.
Yeah.
Trying to look up an answer on Google or ChatGPT or some other large language model.
Yeah, we've had several interviews where they were wearing glasses and all of a sudden their glasses go white and you could tell that they're Googling the answer right there. And and it's like, okay, guy, it's like you made it very obvious. You need to get some anti-reflective or something. I don't know, but yeah. So, what are some potential audio and video cues to detect a deep fake or AI that's occurring during the stream or even a pre-recorded one?
It's interesting because right now, I touched upon some of the video cues to be able to check, but a lot of the time, if you and I were having a conversation over Zoom and I glitched, I had a pause or I appeared to glitch for you because something happened on your end on the internet. You wouldn't sit there and go, oh, that's a deep fake. You would just think, oh, it's a glitch, because we've been for so long, video technology really kicked up, for meetings really improved over COVID, Zoom exploded and, Teams and everything else. And so we've had, if you're in a hotel room and you've got a bad internet connection because you're only getting so much, your video is going to be jagged and problematic. And so that's some of the things that they're going to leverage on a deepfake, especially on a video call, is they're going to leverage it that they've got a really bad connection. So then it comes down to, again, the human is, okay, well, let's continue this over email, or can you call me? Because usually your audio calls are going to be better. But that trust is wanting to be there, but then also the verification. Can you if it is your boss or the CEO, is there a way that you can verify? Maybe you need a policy in your organization, because if you don't have daily or regular interactions with your CEO and out of the blue, they call you up wanting you to transfer money or do something, that's the unusual part. And so there has to be a way for you to be able to verify, check with your boss who might know somebody that can check. Hey, is the CEO really reaching out to me to do this? So again, it comes back to that whole, soft skill of trusting and verifying. We can question the audio, we can question the video and be skeptical of it. But again, it comes down to, what are they asking us to do? And a lot of the time it may be something where they're just looking to build rapport, or they're looking to get a little bit of information, because then they're going to go hit another target with that nugget of information to try and gather even more. But when you've got the audio and the video, either through a video call or a Zoom call, if it's a conversation you don't have with them very often, or you're not expecting it, again, it goes back to that process of going, let me just check some things.
So in other words, the best way for businesses to protect themselves is to be curious and to talk on that human level versus and try to get more deeper in the conversations versus more generalities and those sort of things.
Right. I mean, I'd be curious to see. I mean, we're slowly getting reports, with deepfakes. I've seen some where every organization has dealt with some type of deepfake. Almost every organization,
Mm-hmm.
80-90% of them have had some type of deepfake, whether it's through a video or an audio call. Um, and so, yeah, there's that whole trust and verify, even if it's dealing with large amounts of money and the board is on a phone call telling you to transfer the money, if that's not part of your process,
Mm-hmm.
then you've got to go through your process. You've got to verify it. Or if it's the board that's telling you how to spend the money, we might need to rework some of your processes. But unless the cyber criminals, the scammers that were able to work out $25 million out of that one organization, unless they sat in the network and saw that, oh yeah, if the board goes spend this money, give it to this vendor,
Mm-hmm.
everybody goes, okay, jump, and we'll jump how high to appease the board, versus there has to be a chain of command. There has to be a process on how that happens. It can't just be, hey, do this right now.
Yeah, and I've even heard of a story where they had multiple people on the call. All of them were deep fake, supposedly
Yep.
board members, and
Yep.
basically trying to get the CFO or someone to do these transfers and stuff like that.
Yep.
So you got to really verify, even if it's multiple people, and don't
Yep.
trust that that is the case if it's out
Yep.
of your normal process for that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's out of your normal process, something you wouldn't normally do. That's where the question. And if the board gets, if that's and it is legitimate, and your board gets upset, it's like, well, I'm doing this to make sure I'm not transferring the money. It's no disrespect to you if it is turns out to be legit, but it
right.
has to make sure that you're going through your processes.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So where do you see deepfakes going from here? I mean, they're coming a long way quickly, just like every other bit of AI. I mean, probably by the time this release, it'll be different. So where do you think it's going to happen? Where do you think this is going to go?
We are at there's a quote out there that I really, really like. We are at the worst time of AI. AI is just getting better and better and better every day.
Mm.
Every day or every couple of days, I get a newsletter regarding AI, agentic AI, generative AI, several of them actually, in fact. And there's always stories in there about this service coming out and being available, being able to do more with video, being able to do more now with agentic AI, where it can start doing tasks, where it can now interact with your own computer and go on your browser and do certain things. So we're getting to the point where we're starting to give more and more to AI, and AI is kind of that big, huge umbrella that encompasses so much, whether it's generative, agentic, machine learning, and so forth. We're starting to give more and more to it. We have to make sure that we're keeping the human in it. We're keeping the pilot involved. But I see that the deep fakes are going to get better. I'm hoping we're able to start detecting them a lot quicker and a lot faster. But I have a feeling unless organizations are getting the training going on and making folks aware, executives aware of the potential capability of the deep fakes, they may fall victim to it, and they don't want to do that. And it's just the technology is just going to get better, and I just hope we can keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Bruce Schneier that said attacks only get better; they never get worse. And I think with AI, that's even going to be more and more truthful off of that. So
Very much so.
it just you could see the progression of it, and you could see just as we're finding great cases to how to use it more efficiently, the same could be happening on the negative side, and likewise to try to detect things too. So. So let's kind of pivot here in the last few minutes here, and it's kind of the same questions I ask everyone else. What is something that companies in the security industry or in technology could do better?
More training for their users. I kind of have to do that. It's all about reducing risk. Everything in cybersecurity we know is all about reducing risk. And when we see that 70 to 90% of the data breaches that are going on are results of a human action, we need to make sure that we're reducing that human risk. And so I'm not talking about, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny with your security awareness training where it happens once a year. I'm
Right.
talking about doing it more frequently. And it doesn't have to be 45 minutes every few months. It's different aspects spread throughout the year. You're wanting to get your users to have security top of mind, be aware of the different things, especially with deepfakes and phishing emails, and be phishing them on a regular basis as well. Yes, we're going through and we're helping them identify what our phishing emails or fake phishing emails look like. So when the real time comes along and they know how to report it, when they do see a real one, that they know the process to be able to report it because they're educated and they're aware and it's habit for them. So for me, it's more about growing security culture and improving your human risk management within organizations. That's what I would love to see
Great.
organizations improve on.
So, what are you tired of hearing about?
So, as a university professor, the thing I'm tired of hearing about is there are so many jobs available in cybersecurity. 3.5 million jobs are needed. 3.5 million people are needed. And I know that the organization that I do a lot of work with and support with ISC2, that comes out of their global workforce study. The problem with that fact is, sure, there might be 3.5 million jobs needed that are out there, but they're all mid-level. Organizations aren't looking for enough entry level. They're looking for the mid-tier, the unicorns, the seniors, people to come in, hit the ground running, and create their whole security program. We need to be able to create more entry-level positions for students because there's a lot of students going through university programs, college programs. You've got them out there getting certifications because they've been told that will get you a job. And they graduate and they've got their certs and they go out and they go, oh no, we're looking for somebody with experience.
Right.
And it's the ever famous catch-22. Well, how do I get a job if I don't have experience? How do I get experience without it? So we need to have and come up with ways to be able to get people into our organizations working in cybersecurity start, at that entry level. But we're seeing with AI is helping deal with a lot of those entry level, those SOC level ones, incident response, help desk. I mean, you can literally have your whole help desk level 1 be done by AI. And then when it can't solve it or there's a problem, it goes to a level 2 human. But we need to find ways so that we can get, have more internships, have more entry level positions for these students coming out of university, to help with that, fact that, yeah, there's 3.5 million jobs, but that's globally. In the US, I think there's only 800,000 that were needed at the time of the report. But
Right.
of all of them, a lot of them weren't for entry level. So we need to find more ways to get those entry level students hired coming out of university because some of the programs that are out there, they're doing quantum. They're doing AI simulated security awareness training. They're doing a lot of fantastic work and some brilliant minds that are coming out of universities that are looking to get jobs. And so we need to make sure we have places for them. Because these old folks, the old white guys in the industry, we all want to retire in
That's right.
5 to 10 years or whatever. So we've
Yep.
got to make sure that we're lining up the next group of security professionals.
Yeah, and I always question too with those numbers how much of that is including other IT jobs versus just security related too. Because when you go look through just as a quick kind of validation of the number of jobs that have security in it, it's very few of them, and then a whole bunch of IT. So it's like how much is this getting blended in there too, and which is causing some redirection or some. Not necessarily redirection, but misinterpretation of what the data is really. So, yeah. And finally, what's a particular trend that you're watching in the technology or security industry that we should be maybe keeping our eyes out on as well?
So 2022, 2023 was the big year of generative AI, ChatGPT on the scene, Gemini and all them. Last year, we saw it explode so much more with more generative AI, video and audio, the deepfakes. This year, it's all about agentic AI. We're now leveraging AI, large language models, to start doing more and more tasks, kind of the whole if this, then that, but then it's a lot smarter than just going, okay, it's this, or if it's this or this, do this. No, it's now analyzing a particular situation or set of tasks, then going on to the next one, processing it, and then giving you a final output. So we're seeing a lot with agentic AI happening this year, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. We're getting to it'll get to the point where IT will be the HR for agentic AI, for all the agentic AI tools that we'll be using for processing incident response or help desk tickets or coding or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's going to come together. You're going to have IT, the human, the pilot, essentially overseeing all of that, programming those. And that's what, for me, is the trend that I'm seeing will be coming over this year and the coming years.
Great. Well, James, thank you very much for your time here. This was super informative. Definitely did not disappoint on the topic. That's for sure. So I definitely appreciate it. And for everyone else to check in next week. And in the meantime, be sure to follow or subscribe the Cyber Executive Podcast. Until next week. Thank you. And thanks again, James.
My pleasure.